Indians were on this land and the white people came from across the ocean. They came here in their boats with their Bible, with their priests and missionaries. And they wanted to translate the Bible into Cree, and they didn't know an equivalent word for sin. So they went to the elders and asked the elders, tell us what is the equivalent of sin in your language, in Cree. The Indians didn't have a word for sin. The closest the elders could return with the word, the closest one was Pastawan. And our children are our future. And when you shatter those lives, the children, when you shatter our future, that is Pastawan. That's a sin.
With the conquest of the New World after 1492, a land of almost limitless resources fell to the Europeans. For the Church, it was an entire continent of souls to be saved.
Kuagumunga janduna imatenu kaulune awandu kuagumasana wadi. Shkwangu di kuaguma ya janduna mimi shanan kaki mina yimbana yimina ni kaunka. Aguma onan. Iwa mema akondu mbai me antenu ko samble kita akondu. Yamba lama me ya foto me guga unu kwanskelu. Mimi kimi janika kwanskelu. Aknangwa kaki jalin.
To the first Europeans, the New World seemed a strange paradise. God made all the peoples of the New World, many and varied as they are, as open and as innocent as can be imagined, wrote Bartolomé de las Casas in 1542. The simplest people in the world. Unassuming, long-suffering, unassertive, they're without malice or guile. The notions of rancor and hatred are quite foreign to them. But at the core of Indian culture was a religious conception of life which had grown over thousands of years. And unlike the Europeans, theirs was a spirituality completely bound up with the rhythms of the natural world. After 1492, the whites set out deliberately to break this bond, to enslave the Indians in their own land, as Columbus said, and to bring their souls into paradise. The European conquerors of the New World came bearing the message of one God, one church, and one truth. With this, they promised the natives salvation. Initially, the Europeans forced their religion violently on the Indians. But very soon, the Indians began to make it their own, transforming Christianity with their own beliefs and customs. So today, the two systems of belief live on side by side, inseparably mingled. Take the cross on which Jesus died. For the Maya in Guatemala, the cross is the ancient tree of life itself, the great green tree of the world, a holy tree which could speak to its children in times of need, and still does. In such ways, the length and breadth of the Americas, the Indians have continued to maintain their own spiritual universe.
todos saben que significa quitar el vestido viejo. Despojaos del hombre viejo, dice San Pablo, y revestíos del hombre nuevo, para que sean de veras verdaderos hijos de Dios. La intincum silaha, saskabali Dios yukove, li Dios kakolve, utri Dios santil musique, con tanta shak. Un aplauso a todos.
The first Europeans were astonished by the scale of the civilizations they found in the New World. These were people skilled in every art, wrote one Jesuit, with high moral virtue and perfect philosophers. But the Indian religions were another matter. The church was adamant they could only be the work of the devil. Everywhere the whites turned temples into churches, yet even today in Mayan towns like Chichicastenango in Guatemala, the Catholic brotherhoods, the cofradías, honor and tend the ancient spirits just as they did before Columbus. Their emblems are Christian, but they also pray to the old gods. We will never give them up, Father Christ. For us, only names and fortunes change. And down the middle of their Catholic church, candles burn on Mayan altars for the midwives, the shamans, and the ancestors. Out in the countryside of highland Guatemala, the majority of people still speak the Mayan language of their ancestors. 60% of them are Indian. And their war against their colonial rulers has continued. 40,000 people were killed here in the 1980s. A refugee from those wars, Juan lives in poverty with his family in hills near Coban. He speaks Quechua Maya, and like many people of Mayan origin, he has oral traditions handed down from the ancestors.
When the conquistadors first came here, they caused a lot of pain. They took many things away from our ancestors. Some of our ancestors were very intelligent, but they killed them. They didn't want to give the white men the gold they had on their wrists and hands. It is as if I want to take your watch, but you don't want to give it away. So I cut off your hand, put it in boiling water, stir it, the gold comes off, and the bones come out separately. Then they cut their throats to get the gold and silver they wore in their heads. That's how the white men started here.
When the whites first saw the treasures of the New World stacked in warehouses in Europe, they thought there was nothing more beautiful in the world. It rejoiced our hearts to see such marvels, wrote the artist Dürer, the subtle genius of the people of the land of gold. The Indians, though, valued gold very differently. They were perplexed by the whites' insatiable greed for it. Perhaps, they thought, the whites must eat it. And in the Colombian Sierra Nevada today, looters are digging up the ancient burial mounds of the Tairona civilization, still searching for gold, carelessly smashing the world of spirits and ancestors.
There are outsiders, whites, who take our sacred offerings, put them in their pockets and take them away. And then they sell them. They take anything with which the old mamas made their offerings. You can see that on the mountain over there. They are digging up tombs to steal things and then sell them. That's why we call them parasites, moths. The moths are causing illness. They are doing harm to the mother. They have no heart. They have no life.
In Guatemala, the gold has long since gone. Jose is a traditional Mayan priest north of Coban. He's one of the few true believers in his village. He's also a Catholic, but he still goes to the old caves to make his offerings. And now he's got a helper, Juan, who's a Catholic too.
Our ancestors, the Maya, used to speak of the mountain spirits. They call up the name of the rock. They could ask it, "What's your name?" There was once a great mountain, and his name was Lord Baal. He was the lord of all the mountains. He performed all kinds of miracles. When the Maya put all their strength into staying up all night, Lord Baal would grant them their wishes. They dreamt about him all the time. The mountain spirit Baal was incredibly tall and did all kinds of miracles for the Maya. Whatever they asked him for, he gave them. If they asked for rain, he sent the rain. And if the descendants of the Maya asked for rain, it sent too. And that's how we know that the mountains are alive. How did the Maya name the mountains? It's like this. Let's say there is a saint like Saint Joseph. Here in Semoy, no one gives offerings to the mountains except for Jose here. He gives his offerings. So when people look up to his mountain, they will say, "Ah, that is Saint Joseph," because they know that he has the strength to watch over our village. The Christians are getting rid of all the traditions of the Maya. The Maya you see now, they look like Maya, but many of them haven't got the character of the Maya. They make fun of the mountain spirits. "You really have faith in the rocks? You worship the rocks?" they ask mockingly. What do the rocks do for the evangelical missionaries? They break them up and make houses out of them, and they say the rocks have no power. That's one of the really stupid things they say.
The Indians say the natural world does have power, and they can still see it everywhere. The whites, they believe, have done violence to the earth and drained away its divinity. All the Indian religions have this in common. They affirm the bond between human beings and nature. For them, white rituals are different in their meaning and their intent.
Kamandina
Our featherhead dresses are very precious. They were created at the same time as us people. Our bodies, our flesh and blood, they are there to make us think, to make us live. They are what makes the shamas and the dancers live when they drink the drug yahe. When they drink yahe, they tell the dancer what to sing, how to dance. They tell the shama how to cure and how to divine, how to cool down snake bite. The feathers shows us things, so they are not supposed to be shown to whites. It's really like their money. It's something precious. The feather box is like the box where they put their money, what they call a bank. That's what it's like. So coming here saying, open the feather box, it's like going there and saying, open your bank. You only open up a bank to buy goods, to buy an airplane, to pay someone. That's the only time you open it up. That's how it is with the feather box.
Like all societies, the Macuna of northwest Amazonia have religious symbols and rituals. The opening of the box with the magic feathers. The preparation of the sacred drug, yahe, which will bring visions, linking plants, animals and humans to the cycles of nature. And those intimate gestures which lie beyond language, wiping away evil. Such things are shared by all forms of spirituality. The sin, perhaps, is to speak of the superiority of one truth above another. In the hills of southeastern Guatemala, Tomas, who's a Catholic, takes his brother to a sacred cave to show him the old ways of the Maya. For him too, there is no contradiction.
In ancient days, the Maya used to live here and do these rituals. They weren't bad. They didn't mistreat others or kill others. But when the white men came here, they killed the Maya, so the holy rituals were lost. All kinds of priests came with their book. They evangelized in Kekchi and so swept away all the Mayan rituals. I started to hear more about the traditions we inherited from the Maya, and I liked them, so I studied again. I started practicing the traditions about 3.5 years ago. Since then, I've begun making offerings in the caves of the mountain spirits. So now I do 2 kinds of religion. There is only one God over us. There is only one truth. And there is no problem with that. Because anyone can praise God how they want to, according to how God touches your heart.
Acariquara Roman Catholic Mission School on the Vaupés River in northwestern Amazonia. From the beginning, the European conquerors used education to turn the Indians into a docile and submissive underclass, to remove their Indianness. The physical conquest of the New World was inseparable from the battle for Indian hearts and minds. To replace the old structures of the Indian universe with European ideals and beliefs. Under the gaze of the Great White Mother.
I think it is at times like this, when the whole school is at prayer, that we know best the rewards of our work. For with the help of God, we have brought love and learning, health and happiness into the lives of these children. And this knowledge is our reward. But not only this, for children everywhere are always eager to love in return. Some mornings are highlighted by the coming of new children who must be settled in and instructed in the rules and regulations of the school.
As recently as the 1950s, children in the far north were taken from their parents and flown hundreds of miles to residential schools to turn them into inferior whites.
Basically, they told my father that if he did not agree to me being sent away, they would cut off family allowance, they would cut off welfare, and take me away anyway. So rather than go through all this, my father voluntarily let me go. During all this, I was not consulted. I was not even told, and I only found out about it about 24 hours before I left. The day before I left, I found out that I was to be put on a plane, and that I was to be sent away to school. Life in residential school, to say the least, was not a pleasant experience. We were expected to do a lot of things that we had never experienced before, a lot of rules especially. Growing up as a child with my parents, there were basically no rules to run my life. But in residential school, all that changed.
Across the USA and Canada, Indian kids were to be cleansed not only physically, but culturally and spiritually.
We didn't know what to expect at all. If you can imagine a parent sending their child, 9-year-old child, to a land they have never seen, and they would not see their child for 10 months. You know, that's quite a big hold that a government had on a people, you know, where the parent just didn't have any choice but to send their child off.
Class, we want to have a reading lesson. It's from The Old Woman's New Hat on page 121, and I want Phyllis Ann to read first, please.
The old woman's new hat. Old Mrs. Wise was always smiling, and
I was taken away, along with my brothers and one sister. Just one day, a welfare car pulled up, and that was the last of the family. It just disintegrated. There was no family after that, and that was about 1956.
And where were you taken?
To several foster homes for the next 3-4 years. And I'd say about 10. And they were right in the vicinity of Lac La Biche. And they're all to white people. They had farms, cattle, things like that, and they put us to work, working for them. And they had children of their own, but they were treated quite differently than the way we were treated. And I can remember, you know, nights when we had to sleep outside in barns while their own children slept inside after working. And we weren't fed at a table. We were brought food to us. And it wasn't the same food that the children would eat with their parents at the table.
1 little, 2 little, 3 little Indians, 4 little, 5 little, 6 little Indians, 7 little, 8 little, 9 little Indians, 10 little Indian boys.
In Florida, the last independent Seminole decided the only answer to this white indoctrination was to live off-reservation. They leased 5 acres of land and are trying to teach the kids their own culture and language at home.
We send some of the kids to school and some home to carry on the culture. You know, they're taught, you know, everyday life, like taking care of the village, cleaning up the village, and like I said, like building the chiquis and making the gardens and cooking. But yeah, it's rough. But if we forget all about those things and just throw away our ways and our laws and our language and go the other way, you know, we're gonna bring all the problems upon ourselves. The ones that go to school, they're having a hard time, you know, speaking Indian and speaking English, because like when they go to school, we tell them it's fine because you have to talk there, but when you come home, you speak your own language. But you know, they intend to speak the English too. And when they talk about Columbus Day, you know, they don't look at those kind of things. You know, all they look at is how he came and conquered this continent, how he discovered this continent. But they don't talk about the things that helped them out to all these years. And then when the Pilgrims came, you know, it was the same thing. The Indian people greeted them with open arms. As the new people came and started developing their own ways, that you know, they try to force all those ways onto the Indian people.
You sort of fasten your wheels onto your wagons. And remember, what were the differences in the sizes of the wheels? When you put your lid or your top on for your covered wagon, if you attach it to your brass fasteners, it will not move. If you're using tissue paper, well, we'll have to try something with that.
This is the white myth of American history, the Wild West and covered wagons.
Tape it, whatever works best for you.
Rebecca, who's 14 years old, is a Seminole, but goes to a white day school.
If I had a chance, I wouldn't have went to school. Because I started late. That's why I'm in the wrong grade right now. I'm a year behind. Sometimes I don't really like it, because I don't understand when she asks me questions. But sometimes I understand the work, but not the questions she asked me. They said that the white man came here first or something. And then I hear that they said the Indians came here first. And I don't know which one is true, because they're telling me the white man came, then they're telling me the Indian came first.
I don't go to school. I don't really want to. I'd rather learn first about my ways before I learn anybody else's. I learn how to cook and sew and do beadwork, and I take care of the children.
I have a little boy, and I want him to grow up knowing what's going on, about our ways, hanging on to our ways, I'm teaching him, he's learning. And I get scared for him, for his future, and how worse it might get. We have our laws. Like white people, they have their laws. And we respect their laws. We want them to respect ours. That's all we're asking, you know. We just want them to respect our laws and the way we live, and give us a little, you know, break sometimes, you know. Don't be so hard on us. We just want to live too, like everybody else. That's all we're asking.
I am Indian, we are Indian. I am Indian, we are Indian. I am Indian, we are Indian. I am Indian, we are Indian.
50 miles down the road, the Seminoles' cousins, the Miccosukee, decided not to take the hard road of resistance. They said, if you can't beat them, join them.
Some of us took in the runaway slave. That really made you so.
We get around 100,000 people a year through here. We could use 500,000. You know, we could use the money that is generated from tourism for housing, for schools, for better education, better schools, better things in the classrooms. Just in general, just the tribe is growing. Pretty soon, you know, we're not going to have enough housing here, enough land. Every time we build new houses now, we have to build new land, you know, fill. And we have another reservation area where there is plenty of land, and the tribe wants people to start moving up there eventually. So it's just, the whole thing is just very difficult now to live like an old Indian. In fact, most of the Indians who call themselves traditional Indians live alongside of the road now. They don't even live back in the swamps.
We'll continue for the double postage or the letter now.
Up until 1962, Miccosukee people were living back in the swamps, living in chickees, which is the Miccosukee word for homes, on stilts, still pushing canoes and things like that, and only speaking the Miccosukee language. So this all has come on to the Miccosukee people very, very fast. And the only way we're going to survive is if we have the funding, if we have money coming into the tribe. We can't live from trading alligator hides anymore. We can't live from making beads. It's a sad thing, but it's true. We have to have money now. So you can call it a sellout, or you can call it a buy-in, whatever.
In northern Canada, the Cree people took a different point of view again. In reclaiming control over their children's education, they saw the chance to take back control over their own destiny. They run their own school board and now offer Cree education. The kids can learn in their own language.
When I grew up, we were punished for speaking Cree. We were not allowed to speak Cree. We had to learn English. It was very frustrating for us because we could not speak English and we could not communicate. So if you cannot speak Cree to them, to the people who are bringing us up in the schools, if we could not speak Cree, if we could not speak English, then we don't say anything, So it sort of stunted us a bit in terms of communicating with the people who are trying to bring us up. To see the schools now encouraging Cree is a very positive sign. And I am very amazed at what the children learn. They are so proud of their language. They are curious about their language. I hear them asking their parents, they want to get it right. What is the correct way to say this?
you know?
Language, after all, is what makes us free. Language empowers us from our very first words. With language we give our land its names. With language we learn about good and evil. And each language is its own unique world. And a language lost diminishes us all as human beings. In Hudson Bay, it was Anglican missionaries from the British Isles who converted the Cree, and it wasn't all a disaster. A kind of meeting of minds and hearts took place.
Imata. Bless, O Lord, these rings, that they may be to these your servants tokens of their solemn vows and pledges of pure and endless love, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Some of those lonely Scottish trappers who came out here for the Hudson Bay Company married Cree women, and the Cree liked their tartans and their Highland flings. They also liked their bannock, their doughy bread, and their tea, and most of all, the old Celtic dance music.
KSHI, Zuni Radio for New Mexico.
Was it love we tried to steal? So I'm bound to go away with you.
Zuni, New Mexico, on the car radio, an Indian radio station. This is the great American Indian tourist experience. And yet even here, the secret Indian universe has survived.
Outside world will never experience what Indian carries in his mind, because outside world doesn't fully comprehend the existence of Indian. I guess only Indian can practice to understand his own culture and life.
Here in the middle of New Mexico, they still care for the ancestral spirits, the Kachinas.
A lot of theologians, noted theologians out there in the world are wondering, how does the church feel about have these Kachina figures inside the Catholic walls? To make a long story short, 2 years ago, our Holy Father, the Pope, came to Phoenix and he pointed out to the native people from all over the country that represents their tribes. And he told them, carry your culture, your traditions and costumes. And this is a similar thing that we're doing inside the Catholic mission. And I hope that eventually this will be known to other denominations, how important the culture can relate with the doctrine of Catholicism, Episcopalian, whatever other different religion has, that could relate. And I'm so fortunate to feel that way. So a lot of times I know a lot of people wonder, which side are you on really? Catholic side or your Indian side? And I say, well, it means both to me in both special, because Almighty gave me this on the Catholic side thousands of years ago for me to speak my native language of Zuni, and yet He even established the cultural richness of my Zuni that I still carry.
Preparations are underway for the most important ceremony in the Zuni religious calendar, the midwinter festival, Shalako. The survival of their spiritual universe is perhaps the key question for all American Indians now, 500 years on. When the white man comes bearing gifts, do you accept and go his way, or do you refuse and hold on to your own center? Up to the early 1950s, the Kogi in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada in Colombia still kept their center together, still weaving the patterns of their own universe. Then the whites came bearing their cheap gifts. Especially they brought alcohol. And here, as everywhere in the Americas, alcohol was the most deadly thing to the Indians. The whites pretended they'd come to trade, but really they'd come to take the Kogi's land. They hoped to get them drunk and to make them barter it all away. It was this more than anything which led the Kogi elders to tell their people to have nothing to do with the whites, the younger brothers whom they now despised, to live behind a black line separating their world from white civilization, a ban still in force. The younger brother can keep his material things, they said. Older brother will hold on to the things of the heart, or they will destroy our souls. In North America, the oppression of life on reservations caused many Indians to migrate to the cities, where half of them now live. Second-class citizens in their own land, many of them end up on the street, victims of institutionalized poverty and racism. In derelict doss houses, deprived of their own language, religion, and culture. From his Inuit village on Hudson Bay, Thomasy was one of those who came to Montreal.
Sometimes I work not for long. I was offered work though construction. I haven't seen the guy since.
What made you come to Montreal?
I like it down here. So much fast times down here.
The disintegration of the lives of their menfolk has rebounded against the women. Undermined by economic hardship, many Indian women have found their way into prostitution in the North American cities.
I came here in October. I left my family in Val-d'Or, my brother. I came here with my daughter. It's been pretty good. Sometimes hard to cope with because there's two worlds, and sometimes I feel I'm caught in the middle. So I have to be here or there. And my parents don't understand me. I understand them, but there's nothing there, so I have to be in either place. So I came here. It's hard, a lot of things to learn, but I'm learning.
And what about your daughter? Where is she now?
They sent her up north.
Why?
Because I was drunk one night and passed out on the street with her. They took her from me and sent her there until I go to the treatment center. She's 4. I miss her a lot.
When I went back to my parents, after 12 years in a white world, I'd become alienated from my own people. I'd forgotten my language. I was not the same Lawrence that left there at 6, that returned at 18. My parents were afraid of me because all of a sudden I represented everything that they'd feared. And the thing that they feared most was anything that was white. Because it caused them pain and shame. Fear, put fear in their hearts. And so I was rejected. I didn't have an identity, no language, no mother or father, no brothers and sisters, no God, because I'd lost them. I took a razor blade and I tried to take my own life.
Lawrence Boucher was found dead on the streets of Edmonton in February 1992. "500 years ago, Bartolomé de las Casas, the protector of the Indians, said this: 'I have no doubt that if Columbus could have known what dreadful results would follow, had he understood as much about the laws of God and nature as he did about navigating ships, he would never have embarked on a course of events which was to lead to such terrible harm.' In fact, Las Casas went on, the Indians were willing to accept our faith and morality if treated with love and kindness. But Columbus so little understood his obligation to the Indians that he could lightly speak of enslaving them in their own land. This was very far from the purpose of God, to which this voyage and the discovery of all this marvelous new world and everything in it should have been subordinated."